We get another missing persons case that police are not handling properly. Dane Dudzik has been missing from Sacramento, California since October 1st. His friends and family said that he would never have gone missing on his own accord. He also has a medical condition that requires medication that he doesn't have right now. Let's talk about the dangerous misinformation on the Sacramento Sheriff Department's Twitter page. The police department is claiming that Dane Dudzik is voluntarily missing. His friends and family are saying the detective has never come and talked to them about Dane. How can you say someone's voluntarily missing when you haven't talked to their friends or family or know any details about the person? Oh right, the police department just assumed because he's male, it must be voluntary. Now we all know there is male privilege, but not in this case, not when you go missing. Police departments seem to assume you're just okay. This flyer saying he's endangered was actually posted by a friend of the family. But then the police department says it's voluntary. I think his family and friends would know better. Wouldn't it be amazing if everyone called this number and told Detective Avila to stop half-assing his job? And take that he's voluntarily missing off the Twitter page because he's not voluntarily missing. Saying that gets people to stop looking for him. He's in high school. And he's missing. If you have any information on Dane Dudzik, please call the Sacramento Police Department. Keep sending me your missing persons cases. Everyone deserves justice. Saves and shares help the algorithm and get this pushed out to more people. So guys, please.
This is the TikTok brought to you by the theory that enough time has passed between then and now that I can't be connected back to this guy and I can safely tell the story. Way back in the day, there were two professions that I did. I was a bail bondsman and a realtor. Now I had a bail bonding client who was facing some serious charges for drug trafficking. And to defend himself against those charges, he had to pay a lawyer an exorbitant amount of money, which I think is completely fair. And that meant he had to sell his house. Bada boom, bada bing, I'm a realtor too, let me help you out. So I go through the whole thing, list his property, this, that, and the third. And day one that it's on the market, I get contacted by a buddy of mine who also happens to be a federal agent. He calls me up and he was like, hey man, I'm looking to buy a house. I'd like to go see this house. And I was like, cool. The very first thing we do whenever somebody wants to buy a house is make sure you're pre-qualified. Do you have a pre-qualification letter? And he said, I do not. Let me go get one. Not 1 hour later, he has a pre-qualification from Quicken Mortgage. Now, this buddy's a friend of mine. I have no reason to distrust him. We've known each other for years. And my brain did not put two and two together that this client is a freaking criminal and this client is freaking law enforcement. So, once I have the letter of pre-qualification in my hand, we sit down and fill out the client agreement that says that this law enforcement agent is now my client, so I can represent him and show him houses. I'm now a dual agent. By the way, if you're buying a house in North Carolina, don't ever use a dual agent. Just don't. I take him out. We're showing the house. He's looking through. I step into another room. I come back. He's standing on a chair lifting ceiling tiles in the basement and patting around each of the ceiling tiles. That is the point when all sorts of warning bells just went the fuck off in my head, and I realize, I'm sorry, are you conducting a search? To which he says, nah, just checking for leaks. Now, while that is technically a valid answer, I'm not really sure it passes the sniff test. Like, you know, something just doesn't smell right here. Now, as a real estate agent, I am required to represent the best interest of both of my clients. And I kind of figured out that the best interest of one of my clients was for this showing to end. So, I politely end the showing as quickly as we can. Hey, I've got another appointment that I have to go to. We're going to need to wrap this up. And I go to my lawyer and I'm like, yo, lawyer, what's going on here? And my lawyer dies laughing, calls me a fucking idiot for not seeing it coming. Says, yeah, let me do some research. Apparently, according to at least one lawyer, what that federal agent did was legal. And, after a little bit more research, not the first time he's done it. So for those people out there that don't want federal agents searching your house to find evidence of you committing crimes, please don't list your house for sale, because the feds will come tour your house.
Good evening and welcome to Think About It Thursdays here at Conversations with Taz. Thank you for joining me. It's gonna be a rapid fire type of night. And got an update, and this is also a trigger warning. If you remember a while ago, we discussed a rapist that was suing his rape victim for custody of the child that was produced due to the rape. Yeah, you heard me right. Here's an update.
John Barnes have been battling over custody of their 15-year-old for more than a decade. But a Tangipahoa Parish judge ruled that the teen will continue to stay with an independent family and that the mother will get limited visitation. Abelseth was asking for sole custody after the judge had granted sole custody to the teen's father in March. Abelseth was 16 when she became pregnant by John Barnes, who was 30 at the time. If a child is conceived through a sex crime, Louisiana law allows a judge to terminate the father's parental rights. But in this case, Judge Jeffrey Cachet refused to do that, writing in his ruling, quote, while Mr. Barnes has admitted that a sex offense has occurred that resulted in the conception of the minor child, the court is of the opinion that terminating a legal relationship with a parent with whom the minor child has resided for roughly 2/3 of her life over a decade would not be in her best interest. The judge did prohibit Barnes from having contact with the teen unless and until the teen wants contact with him. Barnes' attorney did not respond to a request for comment, and Abelseth's lawyer said they're deciding whether to appeal and that Abelseth is disappointed that the teen will permanently remain with another family. However, quote, she is very happy that the child will no longer be subject to visitation with Mr. Barnes.
So let me get this straight. The judge doesn't believe that the teen should be placed with her mother, and the father should continue to share custody or have custody of this child, but the child doesn't have to see the father if the child doesn't want to. And everything points to, of course, the child doesn't want to see the father. Welcome to America, the land of forced birth and white male privilege. We have an update. We have a couple of updates coming from SCOTUS tonight, but here's the first one. Please pay close attention.
You guys, the Supreme Court is indicating it is about to rule in favor of one of the most racist voting policies in modern American history, and no one's talking about this. Here's the summary. There are 7 congressional districts in Alabama. Black Alabamans represent 27% of the population, but Alabama state legislature redistricted the entire congressional map to make sure that they were only represented in one district. A federal court ruled it a violation of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Why? Because this is racial discrimination, which is specifically banned by our Constitution. Unfortunately, our right-wing Supreme Court disagrees, and it's indicating that they will allow this form of racial discrimination to continue. Remember, the Voting Rights Act was enacted at a time when southern states were specifically banning black people from voting. Gerrymandering is doing that in just a different way. This is why I say we have to continue to activate and organize. If we do not vote in these midterm elections, then we relegate our fate to people who do not want us to vote in future elections.
Keep telling you all, your votes count. They matter. If they didn't, people would not be working so hard to strip you of that. And from that, voter suppression onto voter fraud. Yes, voter fraud.
This person is not a troll, but asks an extraordinarily important question. If voter fraud was not found, why did the voting laws change? Let's address this. How many people realize that in 2006, when the new Voting Rights Act was passed, it passed near unanimously in the House, unanimously in the Senate, and was signed into law by a Republican president? And due to that new Voting Rights Act that a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican president had helped sign into law, there was record turnout among Black and brown voters. People who had never voted before got access to the ballot box and voted. And still there was no fraud. But something horrifying happened for Republicans. A Black man was elected president of the United States for the first time in history. Republicans who once unanimously supported voting rights now unanimously oppose voting rights. All this after Trump's own voter fraud commission was disbanded because it found no fraud. Republicans are changing voting laws for one reason, because Black and brown people are voting.
Yes, and that is the GOP definition of voter fraud. Black people actually come out to vote. Because, see, their original plan and campaign was to convince you that your vote doesn't count, doesn't matter. So they sit back and watch social media as you have all this discourse regarding, oh, I'm not going to vote. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it very much so does. But now that you have people like Stacey Abrams, AOC, giving people the truth and the facts regarding voting and how important it is and how we can change the trajectory of things, that discourse is changing. It's altering. And people are like, oh, let me go cast my vote. Well, when you have non-racist, non-problematic people voting, there's fewer racist, problematic people that make it into office. And speaking of racist, problematic people, ever wonder about the origin of the Proud Boys? Wonder no more.
Because of a new book out there, that's Huffington Post reporter Andy Campbell's new book, We Are Proud Boys. Well, we have now more insight into the right-wing group, even a little explanation on how the group got its name. So we know that the Proud Boys name first came to Gavin McInnes while he watched with disgust as a 12-year-old boy with brown skin sang a musical number on stage at a school recital. How weird is that? And that is Gavin McInnes right there. Yeah, really. All right, so Andy Campbell says this in the book about McInnes. McInnes was pissed that he had to be in the audience at all. He already sat through performances of his son playing the drums and his daughter playing the guitar. And now here was this kid singing a song from a Broadway musical. This little Puerto Rican kid comes out and he goes, "I'll make you proud, boy." It was the gayest effing song. When I was watching, I was like, this is obviously the Hispanic son of a single mom. He did high five a grown man afterward, but it couldn't have been the real dad. What? Yeah, so this is what Gavin McInnes had said on his show. Wow, racist, classist, homophobia, run amok, disgusting. So on the podcast, McGinnis's producer then played a bit of the song "Proud of Your Boy" from the Broadway version of Aladdin, which he continued to mock. And this is what he said on the shed. He said, OMG, he was singing an Aladdin song. What a dork. The worst part is I don't think he was gay. I think he was just like, this is a good song and I can really use my effing diaphragm. What is up with this? Gavin McInnes is like a full-fledged adult getting upset because he went to like a children's recital? Are you out of your mind? Well, Campbell concludes the whole incident in his book, writing, "The origin of the Proud Boys, the nation's most notorious political fight club, can be traced to one reactionary bigot behind a microphone who hated a child he figured was a fatherless Puerto Rican. McInnes seems to embrace this characterization though his wife is apparently appalled by it. Yeah, I think his wife and any sane, logical person in this world, like, not only is it just absolutely pathetic, there's just isms galore with this. This is a disgusting human being without a doubt, and as are individuals who identify with being Proud Boys. Ben?
They call themselves boys because they are boys. It's the only thing I disagree with what you said, Adrian, calling him a full-fledged adult. This is a full-fledged child. This person this is what you're occupying your mind with. This is what you're occupying your time with, not just to think your mocking thoughts bad enough, but then to go on air and talk about it and mock the choice of a young child singing a song and then name your organization after it. They're a bunch of idiotic, racist bigots. They're homophobic children. And thankfully, this group is being ostracized and finally being held to account. There's not much else to say. It's just disgusting and unreal. This is the person that founded Vice News, and thankfully they disavow him, but how embarrassing for them.
Absolutely. How are you going to be at like your kid's recital and you're getting all racist and homophobic toward a child who's performing? That is just beyond me. I do not get it. But then again, that's what these right-wing little militia groups are, and they are indignant about their right to engage in this hate. It's utterly disgusting.
It's always ironic how hate groups tend to name themselves or use something of the culture of the people that they proclaim to hate the most. They got the name Proud Boys from a song dedicated to a brown character from a brown movie. But from one group of idiots to another, coming from Reuters, Oath Keepers leaders said Trump will need us and our rifles, U.S. court hears. Prosecutors on Tuesday were set to continue questioning their first witness in the trial of Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes and his associates for their alleged role in the storming of the U.S. Capitol following a first day of testimony about a chaotic scene with lawmakers in tears. Rhodes and his co-defendants, Thomas Caldwell, Kenneth Harrelson, Kelly Meggs, and Jessica Watson, are accused of conspiring to prevent Congress on January 6, 2021 from certifying Democratic President Joe Biden's election victory in a failed bid to keep Donald Trump, a Republican, in power. Excuse me. In their opening statement on Monday, prosecutors told a jury that Rhodes and the other defendants had plotted to do whatever it took to prevent the transfer of presidential power. Rhodes told his followers, "We must prepare for civil war," in an encrypted signal message. Defense attorneys vowed that the evidence would show that the Oath Keepers were a peacekeeping force and that the defendants had done nothing illegal. Okay. FBI Special Agent Michael Polian, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, the government's first witness, testified on Monday that he was assigned to help escort senators back to their chambers to finalize certifying the election once the Capitol had been cleared of the rioters. It was chaotic, Polian said of the scene in which he witnessed lawmakers crying. It looked like a bomb had gone off in there. There was pepper spray and tear gas everywhere. Yeah, nothing says lawful and peaceful, law-abiding citizen like pepper spray and tear gas. Polian identified the defendants in video footage taken at the Capitol during the riot and testified about text messages that the FBI had recovered from the defendants' cell phones. Trump supporters stormed the Capitol after the former president falsely claimed the election had been stolen from him through widespread fraud. 5 people died during or shortly after the riot, and about 140 police were injured. The 5 on trial faced numerous felony charges, including seditious conspiracy, a Civil War era statute that is rarely prosecuted and carries a statutory maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Yeah, because after the South fell and the 4-year tenure of the Confederacy, people were like, maybe we shouldn't do that again. That's why Texas has never risen or tried to rise. Prosecutors have said the defendants trained and planned for January 6, stockpiling weapons at a Northern Virginia hotel outside the Capitol for so-called quick reaction force that would be ready if called upon to transport arms into Washington. As lawmakers met to certify Biden's election victory, some Oath Keepers charged into the Capitol building clad in paramilitary gear. The government and extremist monitoring groups have characterized the Oath Keepers as a far-right anti-government group, some of whose members have ties to militias. Some of the members include current and former military and law enforcement personnel. Rhodes, a Yale-educated attorney and former U.S. Army paratrooper, has disputed that characterization. I swear for God, they are so special, like on a whole nother level. And I have an update on Miss Anna Delvey. Yes, the woman who scammed New York socialites. Here we go.
Fake German heiress Anna Sorokin got all dolled up Tuesday morning as she stepped out from house arrest in Manhattan for the first time to see her parole officer. The 31-year-old con artist donned heavy eye makeup, high heels, and a black trench coat for the rare outing. The socialite scammer, whose court-ordered ankle monitor was briefly visible under her pants while leaving her new East Village apartment, ignored questions before getting into her SUV.
How did it go, Anna? Anna, do you think if they gave you the money, it would have been successful?
Her spokesperson confirmed to the Post that she was heading to Brooklyn to meet her probation officer ahead of a check-in with immigration officials later on Tuesday. As part of her release, she is banned from all social media.
So who's running her Instagram page? And I know she got paid from Netflix, but where is she getting this money? She's living in Manhattan? She has a driver? She's in designer. At least her wardrobe has gotten better, because her wardrobe before was a little questionable as far as being highbrow. But tis what it is. This next story, please pay close attention. Trigger warning, it does talk about police chases, and just take a look. And please, people, stop glorifying things you see in movies as if the outcome is going to be comparable to real life. There are no stunt doubles for real life. People cannot just dust themselves off and move forward. So here we go.
Just this past week on October 6th, an NYPD police car pursuing a stolen car swerved off the road and struck 10 people. Police car chases resulting in injuries or fatalities is sadly common. And we saw it happen here recently in Minneapolis with Linnell Frazier being fatally struck by an MPD cop car driven by then Minneapolis police officer Brian Cummings, who is now charged with second-degree manslaughter and criminal vehicular homicide. Cummings was said to be brimming on 90 to 100 miles per hour chasing a suspect when he struck Frazier's car and killed him. This is an important topic because the U.S. Department of Transportation estimates that about 250,000 high-speed police chases occur nationally every year. About 6,000 to 8,000 of those result in a collision, killing around 500 people and injuring about 5,000 people. The takeaway is many of these chases are after a traffic violation or something that is only a suspicion of wrongdoing. Hardly serious enough to warrant anyone dying or being injured in the process of a police chase.
Yeah, it is not worth it. I know it's ACAB all day long, and if ever you have a cop get behind you and you don't feel safe, or someone claims that they're a cop, they just put up a single light and it's an unmarked car, call 911. Drive to the nearest public place or the nearest police station, but keep your same speed. Do not speed off, because you do not know who you could plausibly injure. Now, this next story, there are a couple of videos to go behind it. I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit because there is an update that kind of just came in. So I'm going to let these videos play, and then we'll get into the article to go along with it. Here we go.
So family, this story comes from Los Angeles, California. In leaked audio, LA council members make racist remarks and mock their colleagues. They were targeting black people and being racist towards black people. The LA City Council President, Nuri Martinez, made racist remarks in a 2021 meeting. So let's get deeper into the story. And family, it was 3 Latino members of the Los Angeles City Council and a top county labor official who held a conversation last fall that included some racist remarks towards black people. Like, for example, the LA City Council President Nuri Martinez said that a white councilman handled his young black son as though he were an accessory. And she also said that his son was, quote, like a monkey in Spanish. Seriously. That's what she said. She was caught on tape saying that. And then a few minutes later, when referring to the Los Angeles County District Attorney, George Gascon, she said, F that guy. And she also said, he's with the blacks. So the Mijola La Raza stuff that I've been talking about for the longest time, because the woman that I'm going to marry is Hispanic. And she speaks fluent Spanish, and her mother is Mexican. And she's told me about this Mijola La Raza stuff, where there's a lot of anti-blackness within the Hispanic community that nobody wants to talk about. This happened in Los Angeles. There is no gaslighting, no lying you can do, no deflections you can do. This is a heavily populated Hispanic, black, and Democrat state. In California, there is no gaslighting and no lying, no deflection you can do. This is a problem that the Hispanic community has to address, period. And the other people you had in that conversation were council members Kevin De Leon and also Gil Cedillo, and also the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor President Ron Herrera. And they had some very choice words that they said, some very inappropriate language that was recorded and released. And then LA Council member De Leon said that holding a black child is somehow comparable to holding a Louis Vuitton bag, and also referred to another council member as the fourth black member, even though they're white. And it would appear that foundational black Americans or black descendants of American slaves were right all along when we said there's a whole lot of anti-blackness within the Hispanic community that we must be honest about.
After calling her colleague's 2-year-old black son a little monkey in a recording, Los Angeles City Council President Nuri Martinez has protesters outside her house demanding her resignation. In the same conversation, a city council member compared a different city council member's adoptive black son to a Louis Vuitton bag. Last night, Nuri Martinez apologized for her comments, saying she let frustration and anger get the best of her.
Nuri Martinez has stepped down as the president of the Los Angeles City Council after audio leaked of her making disparaging remarks about black people. According to the leaked audio, Martinez referred to Councilman Mike Bonin's black son as a changuito, which translates as little monkey in Spanish. Other racist remarks were said as well, and she has stepped down. The more alarming part of all of this is if Nuri truly felt okay making racist remarks about black people while on the job, how did that play into her decision-making as a council person? Anti-black remarks may affect people within earshot. However, Martinez was the president of a city council that governs the second largest city in the United States, which begs the question, how did her anti-blackness affect black people in Los Angeles as a whole? And the final question is, would she have owned up to her own racist behavior had audio not leaked of her doing so?
We're here outside of City Hall, and Nuri Martinez has just resigned. She does not represent the brown community, and to our black brothers and sisters, we apologize. She does not represent our community, and we've been calling her out, and that's why she resigned.
Coming from WOWT, Los Angeles councilmen resist resignation in racism scandal. 2 Los Angeles City Council members held out Thursday against overwhelming calls to resign for joining in bare knuckles banter during a private meeting where a colleague was recorded making crude and racist remarks. Excuse me. Pressure mounted on Gil Cedillo and Kevin De Leon to follow the lead of former council member Nuri Martinez, who stepped down Wednesday for comparing another colleague's black son to a monkey, belittling Mexicans from the state of Oaxaca, and making crass comments about Armenians and Jews. Is she friends with Kanye West? Are they friends with Kanye West? Is this the week to just attack Jewish people and black people? I'll digress. The council's Friday meeting was canceled after acting president Mitch O'Farrell said members couldn't conduct business until the 2 stepped down. Raucous protesters shut down a meeting Wednesday. There's too much pain. There's too much deep injury to the soul, to the spirit of this city, O'Farrell said. Martinez, who in 2019 became the first Latina to hold the office of council president, announced her decision in a news release that didn't refer to the leaked recording or offer an apology for what she said. Because she's not sorry. They're never sorry. She's not even sorry she got caught. And the fact that someone had the forethought to record her, this has been ongoing. And if you notice in the final clip where the gentleman said, we've been complaining about this, we've been protesting her for a while. They needed the evidence to get through. Yeah, she said what she said, and she said it with her whole chest. But now these two are deciding, says Martinez described herself on her website as a glass ceiling shattering leader who brings profound life experience as the proud daughter of working class immigrants. She is the daughter of Mexican immigrants and was born and raised in the San Fernando Valley. Cedillo, De Leon, and Martinez were part of a discussion last year with a powerful Latino labor leader who has since resigned, centering on protecting Latino political power while redrawing council district boundaries. The once-a-decade redistricting process can pit one group against another to gain political advantage in election. How did I know? How did I know? All of this redistricting. How did I know? How did I know? How did I know? Who's next? Who's next? Who is next to try to redistrict out the black vote? Who's next? I feel like we are trapped in a Tales from the Hood version of Hip Hop Harry. Like, who's next? Whew. But we have an update on the Capitol riots. Let's get into it.
Believe you are. Okay. All right. Well, so I saw you quoted as this. Maybe you think this is a joke, too. You said everyone I know didn't vote for Biden, so obviously he couldn't have won the election. That's the silliest, stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. I've never heard of anything so ridiculous.
What I said. That's not what I said. I said, I've not talked to a single person that claims to have voted for Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm. And so he couldn't have won the election because people in your circle didn't vote for him.
I didn't say that. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, obviously Joe Biden won. Look at everything that's going wrong. I mean, he owns everything that's going wrong. He's had 2 years to totally screw up this country, and he's doing a fabulous job.
Yeah, but he didn't win. According to you, he didn't win.
He did. Apparently he did.
But according to you, he didn't.
I just said, apparently he did.
Do you think he actually won?
I have questions.
Yes or no?
It's not a yes or no answer.
Sure it is.
I have questions.
You're the guy that's done all the research, and you know better than everybody, so you should know how to answer this question. Did Joe Biden win or lose the election? You won't answer it.
I have my doubt.
No, you
won't answer it.
So
I have my doubt.
Okay, if he didn't
and you have
win,
no proof.
If he didn't win, how did he cheat? That's the question that I think everybody wants to know.
And weren't you on the same ballot? And didn't you win?
How did he cheat?
Well, how did they cheat? Whatever it is.
Personally.
Well, you know what I mean. How did they cheat?
Oh, but all that cheating's been debunked, so you're not willing to listen to it.
I'm listening right here.
I'm glad somebody finally asked the question, but he still avoided it and didn't answer it. How was there cheating? All of these Republicans that were on the same ticket, the same ballot as Donald John Trump Sr. How was there cheating involved and you still got elected? Because if a political party or a movement is going to cheat in their favor, we would have had a lot more things codified, voted into law. We would have had a lot more progression if we would have swept every ballot. So those of you who truly believe that, and you, whether you went and participated in Donald Trump's self-coup, or you support people who did, or you gave excuses to people who were there, Explain to me how there was cheating and Republicans still won. Because when Liz Cheney was defeated in an election earlier this year, no one claimed, when she was defeated, no one claimed there was cheating. When Sarah Palin, she tried to say there was cheating, but nobody jumped on that bandwagon. That horse was set out to pasture. So is it only cheating specifically for Trump? And how would they do that? Because we fixed the whole hanging Chad situation from the Bush-Gore election. So how? Curious minds would like to know. Curious minds would like to know. And we got some more information on the Mar-a-Lago spy.
All right, so you could make something out of this. You could not make something out of this. I'm just going to tell you what happened. So you see this woman here. This was a woman who was being investigated by the FBI because she was posing as a billionaire heiress and a Rothschild, and she was able to gain access to Mar-a-Lago. Yes, Mar-a-Lago, where all of those security documents were being stored. This woman here was able to peruse around and golf with the president. Who knows what else? Well, anyway, this is her associate, this gentleman right here, and he was actually cooperating with the investigation, with the FBI investigation into this woman. Well, he was just shot and left for dead outside of a Canadian resort this last weekend. Now, could be coincidental, could not be coincidental. What do you think?
Now, I want to point out one thing. There's so many people who believe that Trump is an astounding businessman, that he's a billionaire, all these different things. This woman pretended to be a Rothschild. Now, do you think billionaires and their families are hanging out with middle-class people? Do you think billionaires are even hanging out with millionaires? No, it's a very, very tight club to be around. You generally get invited to the same places because they're like, maybe I could use some investors. And if I got to pay this much security for this family to come, might as well let the rest of the families come too. Trump had no idea. That means Trump hasn't been around to hobnob with people. That goes to further explain why he so easily and quickly got so power hungry while as POTUS. It's like the kid in class that never got invited to a birthday party and then gets to college and by some stroke of luck gets into a frat and is able to live in the frat house and might even make it to frat president. And now they're tyrannical. Because one, they have no social skills. And two, they finally got the power and the popularity that they fantasized about for so long without ever knowing the reality of the inner circle. Trump reeks of somebody who has spent so much of his time window shopping reality and life as the rest of us know it, that when he finally crossed into the shop, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do. And speaking of Trump, I'm critical of every politician. I don't have any overwhelming support or loyalty to any politician or any political party. I have critiques for everyone. But I will say, there still is a lot of unfair, unjust criticism of Joe Biden. Why didn't he do this quicker? Why is he just now doing this? Why is he just now doing that? I think a lot of y'all forgot about how the transfer happened, how delayed it was, how much catch-up Biden had to do in real time. And the presidency isn't something, it's not like missing a week of school and you can just double up on your homework and get caught up in a week or two. Pay attention to this next clip.
Holy shit, you guys. Let me give you some background information. When Joe Biden won the election in 2020, Emily Murphy, she was the administrator for General Services Agency. That's the agency that runs the government. It's responsible for running the government. She refused to ascertain the election, meaning release billions of dollars for the transition. She refused to do it. She's a total Trump lackey. The GSA also oversees the lease to the Trump International Hotel because it has a revenue sharing with taxpayers. Murphy refused to provide unredacted financial information. Too late, we got it. She refused a House subpoena, and she did not independently audit the hotel's financial statements. She put the entire nation at risk. We were in the middle of a pandemic. Omicron was about to hit. We were trying to get vaccines out. She did that. She also oversaw this. 5 pallets of boxes sent to Mar-a-Lago from the White House. Boxes and boxes. The Department of Justice has said that there is more information missing. We're missing classified still. She's in trouble, and I love this for her.
On top of her shenanigans, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. When we are done with January 6th, and as we move on to the trial of Donald J. Trump, news outlets, you need to be giving up all of your footage that took place between election night and inauguration day. Because I remember the reels of Trump staffers walking out with artifacts. Yes, artifacts from the White House. DOJ, you need to go through all of that camera footage. Because I'm pretty sure old girl may have some documents, and this is just a theory, some documents of her own hidden at her house. And for all things holy, sorry, Ivana, but dig her up. Because Ivana was supposedly cremated. Why did she need a whole casket? And she ain't Lizzie. She's not Queen Colonizer II. There's no reason in the United States to have a lead-lined casket. But if you have PayPal and you heard some rumblings online, let's clear up the misconceptions real quick. Here we go.
Hey friends, did you hear that PayPal is going to fine people who promote misinformation $2,500 per transaction? Well, PayPal just took it back. They said that information was added to the policy section of their website in error, and that they only even noticed that it had been added to the website because they saw the backlash on Twitter. Some of the first people who came out against the idea of fining people who spread misinformation were crypto entrepreneurs and Elon Musk. PayPal said they will continue to deplatform hate groups, but they are not going to fine people for spreading misinformation.
We have some stuff we have to get into regarding Trump tonight. But let's get into Mr. Huckabee first. Yes, Sarah Huckabee's daddy. Because he's completely off the rails. You're not going, you know what? You will believe. You will believe the new conspiracy theory that the GOP is holding on to. I swear, white men in the United States working overtime to be oppressed is like nothing I've ever seen before. Let's go.
Hey, you guys are going to love this. To quote Shakespeare, it is not enough that Mike Huckabee has left us with a plague on both your houses in his daughter, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Huckabee is back in the news spreading misinformation about why MAGA candidates and Democratic candidates are neck and neck in the polls. Huckabee wants you to know that it's because the FBI is targeting all white men between the ages of 30 and 50, and if they do answer honestly in a poll at any moment, the FBI will show up at their house, bang down their door, take them to prison, or put them on a list. I fear I'm not doing it justice. Let's listen to Mike express his fears. Have a great Thursday.
I honestly think Republicans are going to have a much better night than anybody predicts, largely because the polling information is simply unreliable. And there's a reason that it's unreliable. Right now, if you're pro-life, if you're Christian, if you're conservative, if you are a MAGA Republican, which means you just think that America is a great country and we ought to preserve it and protect it and pass it on that way. If you're one of those people, you're kind of thinking that any given day the FBI may show up, bang your door down, and haul you in. If not, they may put you on a list. They may call you a domestic terrorist, threat to democracy. So conservatives simply don't answer polls. So I think we're seeing something that really can't be factored in. And I was talking to Robert Cahaley of the Trafalgar Group, one of the few polling organizations that has some credibility.
He'll be on
and he
tonight.
was very blunt in saying, no white men between 30 and 50 will answer a poll question. And for the most part, most all of the Trump supporters simply will not answer a poll. They don't put yard signs up anymore. They don't put a lot of bumper strips, but they will go vote because they know it's the last line.
My apologies. Yes, they based an entire lie off of the fact that Trumplicans are being critiqued, criticized, called in, and called out for their blatant lies, disinformation, and misinformation. And they've spun it into yet another scare tactic, fear mongering attempt by saying these call outs are the FBI coming to swoop you up. Now, have the FBI visited some Trumplicans? Yes. Has it been because of polling? No. As you've seen on previous episodes, it's been their new dating app and them asking about January 6th and people snitching on themselves. It's been reviews that they have written for things where they've snitched on being there for January 6th. And they've forgotten the call to action from the FBI right at the heels of January 6th insurrection, where the public was called upon to give information and evidence on the insurrectionists. See, racist, bigots, problematic people have created this comfort zone for themselves that they truly believe that anyone in proximity to them shares their beliefs. So they share their thoughts, their actions, their plans with everyone around them. And never get it that these are the people that are turning you in. Now, before we get into some more serious things, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a whole life coach. I'm using this very, very loosely. And yes, I'm being extremely facetious in this. Who told a woman, who I found out is her friend, that her plate was low vibrational. But baby, there's an update regarding that too. So there's gonna be 2 videos back to back. The first one is gonna make your head hurt, but the second one you're gonna get a good laugh at. So if you're drinking anything, put your beverage down. Don't choke on it while watching this podcast. See you in 2 and 2.
But see, I would never eat a plate that looked like this. You couldn't even pay me $1 million to do that to myself. Oh my God. Because I deserve better than that. It's low vibration.
Because of the carbs?
So when they just doing their job, they probably live to a thing that they eat. That's not the truth though. I don't eat fish every day. Well, they assume that people do. And you took it. I would have been like, I'll play with that. I'll tell you what I want. You'll tell me what I want. So my thought process is if you put it on my plate, but I don't have to eat it, I got the biscuit. I wouldn't even look at it and look, that make you look bad. I'm a queen. Queen's plate thing like. If we said 2 plates together and said who's royalty, they would say this person. I agree.
Listen, if y'all was sleeping under a rock, you definitely missed this interview.
Listen, I'm sitting here laughing because from my perspective, you actually making the shit worse.
Yes.
I ain't trying to make it better. No, it is because look, you sat up there, in my opinion, as a friend and embarrassed the hell out of this lady, right? And then it was like, my plate is fit for a queen and your plate is fit for a hood rat. First of all, Tammy used to be big. Tammy's still semi-big. She was hungry.
Yep.
Your plate was giving starvation realness, and then it was like to compare it to royalty, Stormy, like no tea, no shade, no cap, hood rat. But what you give, what you give on the daily, is more consistent with hood rat than her plate. You had green fingernails. You was licking barbecue sauce and God knows whatever else from up under your nails, all while digging around in this lady plate, with your hands all close to her food. Y'all was eating off a white Dixie plate at an event that people paid thousands of dollars to attend, that you was responsible for. And then on top of that, shrimp are roaches of the sea, and there is literally no nutritional value in corn. So how was your plate or your vibration any higher than hers? Why your legs was cocked open on the chair?
So let's go back.
Nope. Child cleared her. He cleared her. He said he literally scraped the internet for everyone's response and put it together in a well thought out 1 minute soundbite. Fantastic. Because that's what we've been trying to say about Coach Stormy. She got so much to say and she don't even be saying nothing. And I hope that a lot of people who subscribe to her ideology and her thinking watches that Fox Soul interview so you can get an understanding that in order to be able to determine if someone is low vibrational, you must be low vibrational yourself. Higher vibration people do not register what people are doing down there. So the fact that Coach Stormy caught that is because she operates at a low vibration.
It never ceases to amaze me. There are so many people that will take relationship advice from a relationship guru that's not in a relationship, has not had a healthy, sustainable relationship. You will take diet advice from somebody who's had a bunch of liposuction and will give you workout routines that make absolutely, positively no logical sense. And then you have these life coaches that you find hanging out in the same places that you are. That's linear movement. That's, I guess, child. I guess if you like it, I love it. All right. Mm-hmm. Oh, we got an update on Amber Heard.
So Amber Heard has now filed her 16 points of appeal in her appeal in the case against Johnny Depp. You may recall that Mr. Depp successfully sued Ms. Heard and was successful in obtaining a judgment against her for the sum of approximately $8 million once various cross-claims had been determined. Furthermore, Ms. Heard is in further legal trouble because the insurance policy she was relying on to pay her legal fees has denied the claim because she was found guilty of defamation, which is not covered under the policy. She's now filed 16 points of error that she says were mistakes made by Judge Ascanate and should give rise to her actually getting a different verdict. This is basically her saying in dot point, these are all the things that the court got wrong and needs to fix, and if they fix them, I would win. And that's how appeals work. They basically drill down on each of these points and see whether or not there's any substance to them. I'm not an appellate lawyer. I did read all 16, but it seems like relatively thin soup for most of them. Follow me for more legal TikTok.
Yeah, I don't see this appeal being successful. It's like, nah, we watched July. We watched July. And we watched July horribly. Now unless you've been on a rock, under a rock, you know, Trump and his cover story regarding the files he was keeping at Mar-a-Lago continued to change. First, he said he could have swore he gave them all back. He had one attorney sign paperwork saying everything was back. Then he said that they were planted. Now, child, just take a look. Just take a look.
I had a small number of boxes in storage at Mar-a-Lago guarded by Secret Service and my people and everybody. I mean, it's safe. There is no crime. You know, there is no crime. It's not a crime. and they should give me immediately back everything that they've taken from me because it's mine. It's mine.
Because it's mine. It's mine. One of the defenses that was theoretically available to Donald Trump at the beginning of this criminal investigation was, I didn't know the stuff was there. It was down in the basement, and I didn't know we had any stuff left down in the basement there. I thought we sent it all back. That might have been able to create enough reasonable doubt in the mind of a jury. But Donald Trump now has formally ripped away that possible line of defense. Donald Trump is saying very clear that he knew that he had boxes in storage at Mar-a-Lago. He's saying he knew that.
And after the January 6th committee decided to vote to bring him in to question him, this happened.
Hello, I follow Truth Social, so you don't have to. And here's part 2 of former President Donald Trump rage posting after the January 6th committee votes to subpoena him. Now, many of you may assume that his anger is limited just to the Democrats. Oh no, friends. Plenty of anger to go around. He's taking shots at former President George W. Bush because, of course, George W. Bush is linked to Dick Cheney, and you know he wasn't going to miss an opportunity to drag him through the mud. But just to convince you that I'm not being dramatic about the number of times that he posted since the January 6th committee hearing today, let's go through and count. Starting with the press release that he posted last night, there are 32 posts in the course of a single hour. The man was busy, very busy. Most of these posts were posted on top of each other, so he would post one and then 30 seconds later another one would come through. That meant the man spent the entirety of the January 6th committee hearing collecting all of these posts that he could just rage vomit onto us all at once. What a time to be alive. Now, because they still haven't figured out who I am on Truth Social, let me bring you a few of these. Okay. Why didn't the unselect committee ask me to testify months ago? Why did they wait until the very end, the final moments of their last meeting? Because the committee is a total bust that has only served to further divide our country, which, by the way, is doing very badly, a laughing stock all over the world. No, that was under you. But Trump, do you not know how investigations go? Like, why would they have called you in the beginning? They're calling you in to ask you about all of the things that came out, especially today. So then he says, document shredding truck spotted on the way to Cheney's house. And this is an article from the Huffington Post, from HuffPost. And of course, I looked up the article. Document shredding truck spotted on the way to Cheney's house. Spotted on 1019. Now, this article is from March 28th, 2008. Keep that in mind. March 28th, 2008. This is what he shared on Truth Social. And he just put the headline up there, just put the and we know no one who follows him is going to click on the article to actually read it. They just take his word for it and just look at the headline and believe that they know what's going on. Spotted on 1019 by an eagle-eyed Wonkat reader, the Mid-Atlantic shredding service truck making its way up to the Cheney compound at the Naval Observatory. I don't know why I can't talk all of a sudden. Fun fact, Mid-Atlantic Shredding Services has been contracted by the Secret Service for our executive branch's record not keeping needs. Now, just like what's going on with the January 6th committee, a lot of notes are being taken. A lot of things don't need to be kept forever. You can't just ball it up and throw it away. Like when I'm taking notes here at the house for research and things, I'm not getting sensitive classified information that I'm never supposed to talk about, so I can crumple it up and throw it away. Guess what? They can't. Just like when I worked in healthcare, there were things we couldn't just throw away. We had shredders. We had a whole professional storage facility that we had to go through for different things. Yeah. Let's keep going, because I just went through and tried to get, and then he said, posted an article with the headline, "What will become of Dick Cheney's vice presidential record?" You already know how this goes, of course. I found the article. And coming from supreme.findlaw.com, what will become of Dick Cheney's vice presidential records? This is from September 3rd, 2010. I repeat, September 3rd, 2010. As the Bush Cheney excuse me, as the Bush Cheney administration headed towards its final days, with President George W. Bush busy planning his future presidential library, the story surfaced that Vice President Dick Cheney was not planning to send his vice presidential papers and records to the future Bush II archive. To the contrary, based on an executive order that Bush, or was it really Cheney, had issued in November 2001, the vice president was taking the position that his papers were largely his, not Bush's, so that he did not plan to send most of his office files to the National Archives and Records Administration, NARA, which administers presidential libraries where historians were sure to nose about in Cheney's material. Because historians find Cheney a fascinating and important historical figure, particularly given his outsized influence on the first 5 years of the Bush second presidency, and because archivists are serious about collecting and preserving the uncooked records of history, there was an understandable alarm that these materials might disappear and never be available. Thus, Cheney's proposed action, which was in clear violation of a federal statute, prompted a federal lawsuit in the final years of the Bush-Cheney presidency in an effort to force the vice president to comply with the law. Unfortunately, the plaintiffs lost the lawsuit, and no one knows what Cheney will or will not do with his records. This story has received only sporadic media attention at best. Congress at present is considering amending the presidential records law. Inexplicably, however, Congress is ignoring the very shortcomings in the existing law that are highlighted by Cheney's actions. Moreover, the records just weren't going with Bush's records. And then here's this nugget. I have to show you all this one because you need to see just how he wrote this out. I want you to see how he wrote this out. There is no crime. Why would he put that in quotation marks? Having to do with the storage of documents at Mar-a-Lago, only in the minds of the radical left lunatics who are destroying our country and were just forced by the courts to give me back much of what they stole during their unprecedented and unnecessary break-in of my home. The Clinton Socks case, which is law, says it all belongs to the president, no crime, and the Presidential Record Act is simple: negotiate and no crime. These people are crazy. The Presidential Records Act does not say that a former president can negotiate to keep things. His weird use of capitalizing certain things, and the FBI didn't break into his home. They had a warrant. This was not Nicolas Cage looking for the original copy of the Constitution or some obscure artifact. This was not Indiana Jones. You are not living in a pyramid, sir. A pyramid scheme, but not a pyramid. And then he said, a must read an article from CNN from 2009. National Archives loses hard drive with Clinton era records. Has nothing to do with anybody stealing anything. And then he came for Mitch McConnell. Trump slams old broken crow McConnell for attempting to take something. I don't know. And then he started posting memes of himself that people had created. This election is your chance to send a strong message to all the arrogant left wing radicals who want to dictate what you can say, what you can think, and how you can live. With your vote, you can humiliate Joe Biden, the media, and the corrupt Democrat machine, and you can declare that America will always remain a free country. President Donald J. Trump, 10/9/2022, Mesa, Arizona. Now, if you really felt that someone or something was corrupt, would your goal be to humiliate them or right them? But moving on, some changes to WNBA rules and regulations may have a lot of the top stars from the league calling it quits on the WNBA. And these rules and regulations are, and the pay scale are part of the reason why Brittany Griner ended up in Russia in the first place. Let's take a look.
The WNBA might be about to lose all of its best players. In 2023, the WNBA's so-called prioritization rules will kick in. What does this mean for free agents like Gabby Williams? In 2023, players will be fined 1% of their base salary for each day of training camp that they miss. Okay, but starting in 2024, not reporting for the first day of training camp will result in a full suspension for the whole season. The main problem is that many WNBA players play overseas in the off-season and tend to return a little bit late for training camp. The new rules are pushing players like Gabby Williams who make much more overseas to just skip the WNBA season altogether.
No, the money doesn't touch what we make in Europe.
We couldn't find her European salary, but in the WNBA this past season, Gabby Williams made $144K. Other big stars like Breanna Stewart have also hinted at just playing overseas and skipping the WNBA season.
I would love to return to the WNBA, but what's best for my career, what the WNBA decided to do to players like me, makes it complicated.
What do you think the prioritization rules will do to the WNBA? Let me know down below.
You don't want to pay them properly. They're not given proper endorsement deals. They're forced to sustain their athleticism and livelihood by really never having an off season. And now you think that you're going to stronghold them to stay in the United States and just simply play for the WNBA? Honey, that's not how any of this works. Take a page from soccer. Even out the pay scale. And as always, like I said, I'm going to keep you abreast of any information I can get regarding politics ahead of the midterm elections. If you were in Georgia, pay close attention. Even if you're not in Georgia, pay close attention so you can spot these tactics where you live. Here we go.
All right, so here's a story you're not going to hear in the mainstream media. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp was in Quitman, Georgia this afternoon when he was out there campaigning and trying to ask for their vote. Here's what he's not going to tell you. In August of 2019, a story here published in Yahoo News that shows a criminal investigation in Georgia set an ominous tone for African American voters. Right before Christmas, on the eve of the holidays, a woman by the name of Nancy Denard was visited by the police. What's important to know about this story is that Ms. Denard actually had just helped elect a new slate of candidates to the school board. Now, why is a school board election so important? Well, Ms. Denard was arrested that morning, and her 11 political allies were charged with 120 separate felonies. This was all done by then Secretary of State Brian Kemp. The reason for their arrest and felony charges are simple. They were black candidates who won an election in the Deep South, which upsets a white-dominated power structure. In his mind, how could a black woman, a black community organizer, be so effective in empowering people to use their voice, use their vote, and get people to understand and become civically engaged in their community? Does that story sound familiar?
I don't know how many times I have to tell y'all. Your vote is incredibly important. That's why they keep working to keep it away from you. Well, Kanye West is getting chased by the consequences of his actions and his words. And before we go into these, it's going to be a series of videos. I'm just going to play them back to back. As always, be sure to check the links in the description of the video. And let's go.
In all honesty, I don't have the most facts, as many facts.
No, I mean in your life, like
so I might have
the
deflected.
COVID vaccine, the being stuck inside. Like, what did you think of all that?
I was vaccinated. It was interesting.
That is footage from Kanye West's recent interview with Tucker Carlson that you'll notice in that clip isn't super clear. You know why? That's because it's what somebody recorded that was not in the actual televised interview. It was actual extra footage that they had. Gee, I wonder why they chose to cut out the part where Kanye West mentions being vaccinated. I suppose they don't want to like muddy the narrative for their viewers who are supposed to believe that Kanye West is great. No, they block that from their viewers because Tucker Carlson does not respect his viewers. Kanye's saying that he's vaccinated. You don't get to see that. No, Kanye West's anti-Semitic tweets, he's not going to mention that when he does his own show. Isn't it interesting how that works?
Now, did y'all catch the praise and worship service over on Fix News for Kanye West? It was damn near Yeezys from heaven rain down on me. But don't believe me, just watch. Press play.
Blown away by Kanye West. I really was.
It was fascinating. This was an unvarnished, authentic. We've rarely heard a man speak so honestly and so movingly about what he believes.
Kanye West is wise. He's unique, and certainly he's fearless. He's a very important voice.
There's such authenticity to that it just makes me want to hear more.
Speaking truth to power, calling things out, and Kanye West does that. He speaks truth to power.
He is one smart guy.
Is Kanye trying to be a force for good? Absolutely.
Yeah, he is. Very special intellectual renaissance. When you consider like people like Tucker or Kanye's genius.
I'm gonna make an analogy. Kunta Kinte and Roots. They got him out on the tree and they're whipping him. What's your name? And they want him to say left-wing liberal.
Kanye West refuses to live in that box.
You can't help but like him because he is not apologetic.
Yeah. Have I reached Alex Jones territory yet? No, I think you're telling the truth. Okay. And that's okay if you do.
I think he's dead on this one.
I know for me, it just made me think, man, we can reach so many more people with this powerful movement that believes in freedom. I know that what I'm listening to is unique and interesting. So if Kanye West believes it, imagine how many more people out there maybe aren't talking about it, but would like to. Kanye West threatening to go to war with the Jewish people on Twitter. He appears to imply Diddy, a fellow rapper, was controlled by the Jews on Instagram.
I mean, it was Yeezy for president. He was literally their black Jesus. Well, until he dropped that anti-Semitic tweet on Jewish people. And they ran quicker than roaches when the lights come on.
But what is this tweet?
Kanye West, this is the New York Post is reporting, and I'll just read the headline. Friends are certain that Kanye West is in the middle of a psychiatric episode.
Anytime you see Fix News praising a black person, it's literally time to turn off the lights and go home. You see, some of these white conservatives, now they love a bought and paid for anti-black Negro. But you see, this is what happens when you decide to side with a fool. But he's all y'all's now. Y'all can have him. We don't want him back. And that would be facts on facts on facts.
Breaking news. Kanye West is finally learning what it means to have consequences for his actions. Up first, Mr. Karen Owens, aka Candace Owens, posted this on her Twitter. Earlier today, I learned that @Kanye West was officially kicked out of JP Morgan Chase Bank. I was told there was no official reason given, but they sent this letter as well to confirm that he has until late November to find another place for his Yeezy empire to bank. I've got the letter for you down here. I'm not going to read all of this. You can push pause and read it for yourself. But basically, just knowing he's got until November 21st to get all his money up out the bank. And you know, Chase Bank got to be pissed off with what he said. Because this man is a billionaire many times over. And they're telling him to take you and your $1 billion business and get the fuck on.
I just love how karma is knocking on Kanye's door. It's about time he finally starts to pay up for all of the shit that he's done just in the last week with the White Lives Matter shirt, the racist anti-Semitic comments. He's finally getting a taste of the medicine that he's been putting out to the world.
In addition of Kanye getting kicked out of Chase Bank, he also got kicked out of LeBron's HBO Max show, The Shop. So apparently they taped this episode last night. As you can see, I've got it written down here from Maverick Carter, who is LeBron's everything. Anyways, he's saying yesterday they taped this episode with Kanye. He knew what he was getting himself into. He promised to be on his best behavior. Of course, Kanye being Kanye did what Kanye does and acted an ass and spit nothing but racist, stereotypic comments. And LeBron and Maverick were like, we are not going to be airing whatever foolishness you've got going on. I just love this. I love that people are finally no longer being silent. Therefore, they're no longer being complacent. And they're calling him out. And he's finally getting consequences to the shit that he does. All I can say is bravo Chase Bank and bravo LeBron. Y'all are the real MVPs of 2022. Go ahead and hit that follow button for news that's always biased and for my point of view.
Did you catch what Tucker Carlson said when Kanye West asked him if he was getting to Alex Jones status? And Tucker, Alex's bestie, the man that, he said, no, I believe you're telling the truth. Tucker Carlson, who admitted that if he doesn't know something, he just lies about it. Yeah, the consequences are beginning to roll in on Kanye. And I find it hilarious that Candace Owens has now become to Kanye what Kanye has been to Trump. Because it's evident he keeps feeding her information to bring out to the public, like the voicemail from Kim Kardashian to Ray J. And yeah, Ray J, we see you. We know you and Kanye are like this. You read Mar-a-Lago last year. You, instead of going to check on your sister, went to a premiere with Kanye last night. How apropos. Well, from one shit show to the next, I do have a bit of good news. I have an update on the whole DeSantis debacle. You know, when he went back to the Jim Crow era and decided to use the tactics of the reverse freedom rides. Let's go.
Oh, today just got so much better. Like, so much better. Oh, my petty heart, my black rotted heart. Because Ron DeSantis tricked the migrants into flying to Martha's Vineyard, they should now be able to stay in the U.S. because they are victims of a crime. You can't deport them. You perpetrated a crime, e.g. human trafficking, DeSantis. They get to stay. And I fucking love this for you. Because they're gonna testify against you.
Yeah, on top of the suit, well, actually, there are a couple of lawsuits against DeSantis for his reverse freedom rides antics. Yeah. See, this is what happens when you don't teach critical race theory, when you don't teach actual history. I'm telling y'all, you're going to continue to Groundhog Day it. It's going to keep repeating. And you're not paying attention to plausible consequences or outcomes that are beneficial to the people that you keep targeting with your racism, your bigotry, your problematic behavior, because you were never taught the reality and the realness and the truth of what's been going on around you. You're the descendants of immigrants. And you did this to immigrants thinking that you had the ultimate, I'm going to own the libs, gotcha moment. You thought you were really going to kill two birds with one stone, and you killed nothing but plausibly the career that you were so proud of. See that embarrassing picture that's been floating around social media as you scoffing like an incessant child that got told no for the first time because people were fawning all over President Joe Biden when he came to properly survey damage instead of just having a photo op and stopping relief efforts? Now, this next video, pay very close attention and do not do this. White people, I'm talking to you.
Look, it absolutely blows my mind that this following conversation needs to be had, but this ain't gonna be easy, but here it goes. Do not be that heartless dumbass who chooses to dress up like Jeffrey Dahmer this Halloween. Like, this is not funny, this is not goals. People are already warning if they see people dressed up like Jeffrey Dahmer that they would throw hands. They would love to get that assault charge. And they'll be wearing a mask. Who are you gonna say beat your ass? Tweety Bird? Like, this isn't one of your favorite fictional slasher films. Real people died. Look at them. Before you really turn around and be that guy this Halloween, like, don't go to school or fuck around and find out. You have this club in France that's actually throwing a Dahmer party saying that he's back. Another one in Nottingham, UK had a serial killer theme party and now they backtrack and say it's just Halloween. America, please don't be the lowlifes that throw theme parties like this or be a serial killer this Halloween.
All right, now we have some January 6th updates. You all know the drill. Gonna run it back to back.
Right before the election, here's Roger Stone talking about what President Trump would do after the election.
Let's just hope we're celebrating. I really do suspect it'll still be up in the air. But when that happens, the key thing to do is to claim victory. Possession is 9/10 of the law. No, we won. Fuck you. Sorry, over. We won. Yeah. You're wrong. Fuck you.
ABC.
I said, fuck the Lord, and let's get right to the violence. That's what I'm saying. It's no point. It's time to start smashing pumpkins, if you know what I mean. Oh, yeah.
A newly obtained Secret Service message from that day shows how angry President Trump was about the outcome. Quote, just FYI, POTUS is pissed. Breaking news, Supreme Court denied his lawsuit. He is livid now. Cassidy Hutchison, an aide to Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, was present for that conversation and described it in this way.
This is the day that the Supreme Court had rejected that case. Mr. Meadows and I were in the White House residence at a Christmas reception. And as we were walking back from the Christmas reception that evening, the president was walking out of the Oval Office, so we crossed paths in the Rose Garden colonnade. The president was fired up about the Supreme Court decision. And so I was standing next to Mr. Meadows, but I stepped back, so I was probably 2-3 feet catty corner from him, diagonal from him. The president's just raging about the decision and how it's wrong and why didn't we make more calls, and just his typical anger outburst at this decision. And the president said, he had said something to the effect of, I don't want people to know we lost, Mark. This is embarrassing. Figure it out. We need to figure it out. I don't want people to know that we lost.
Hey there, quick update on the January 6th Commission. They just reported that Trump decided he would declare victory on election night in November of 2020, whether he won or not, and that he had decided that as early as July. Now, if you recall, he did declare victory on November 3rd. And a lot of the news outlets and everyone were like, it's premature, we're not done counting the votes, you can't declare victory. His own team told him not to do it. But he declared victory and said he would take it to the Supreme Court to dispute the election count. That was the first attempt. You also recall that he wanted to stop the vote counting, saying that there were enough votes in, which is, of course, not the way that it works. When you have votes coming in from across the state, of course, there is a cutoff time for when those can be submitted, but not for how long it takes to count them. So when that didn't work out, he started claiming fraud and reiterating that he was going to go to the Supreme Court to make them stop counting the legitimately cast ballots. I don't know if that's going to change anything for anyone, but to know he decided to do that in July is big news.
And this is why Trump has now been asked to come in and testify. I wonder how many times he's going to plead the fifth. But remember, last week Trump went to SCOTUS. SCOTUS was like, hey, help your boy out. I made sure y'all were good. I gave you some other homies to, make sure that you do things the good old conservative Republican way, even though there is nothing conservative about my life or who I am. And I know y'all want to do the whole Christian nationalist thing, even though I've never been a Christian. I mean, there was that brief period of time where his father used to take them to prosperity preaching churches. We have an update.
Well, another piece of breaking news. This one has to do with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has rejected, as I suspected, the application that the Trump's legal team had submitted to them, asking the court to intervene in the Mar-a-Lago document dispute. Remember that last week, Trump's team had submitted an application to the Supreme Court asking them to overrule a decision by the Court of Appeals in Florida that decided that the 100 or so documents that the DOJ deemed highly classified should not be viewed by the special master as canon had decided. So those 100 or so top secret documents will not be viewed by the special master. This is obviously great news for the DOJ. This is all I could find for right now. I will search for more information and share with you as soon as possible. So make sure you hit that follow button.
Look at all the consequences just raining down. Consequences from the heavens, raining down on them, raining down on them. Now, the beauty of all of this and dragging Trump in front of January 6th, Trumplicans are going to watch. Trumplicans aren't going to get some refurbished, regurgitated tales. And the last time Trumplicans tuned in, you had a mass exodus from the MAGA crowd when they showed the depositions of Ivanka and the rest of them. They were, tuning in to show their support. And when Ivanka admitted that she had even told her father that he lost and to concede, and Trump's obsession with Ivanka is so deep, he couldn't go after her. He wouldn't go after her. That's why a lot of people started to wake up and move away from Alex Jones and QAnon and Breitbart. And it's also why there's an increasing amount of anti-Trumpers and people beginning to correct Trump on Truth Social. Now, you can no longer download Truth Social. So this is not people finally joining. And there's still one incredible waiting list to even get in. I know a few people who shortly after I announced that I was throwing my hat in the ring, and it took me quite a while, we chronicled it on the show, to even get accepted in. So these are people who've had a change of heart that are now pushing back on Trump. And even questioning people who respond to them like, oh, look, there's a clown, another clown. Yeah, why am I a clown? Tell me where I'm wrong. Can you dispute any of this? Open your eyes, wake up. And the fear mongering and the tactics that the GOP are using right now is dangerous. Yes, it's dangerous to all of us within society, but it's incredibly dangerous to these MAGA hats. They're killing their families. They're draining bank accounts. They're losing homes. They're destroying their own mental health and well-being. They're losing careers that they spent thousands of dollars in order to obtain. And a lot of these people aren't within the age range where they can start over and build themselves back up to that tax bracket. Or plausibly, because we do live in a very ageist and sexist society, a lot of them can't really plausibly get back into the job market unless they take those jobs that they have historically criticized for generations. Just a bit of food for thought. I will see you all tomorrow. Keep in mind, tomorrow's podcast will start 1 hour early. I've gotten all of you all's blind reacts and different things. Try to get it in and out as quickly as possible and entertaining. And as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Till tomorrow, y'all.
Damn. 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 Damn.